right now on 5 on Your Side at 10.
So what great news on this Memorial Day that we're moving forward with full support from our governor.
The National Guard now heading to St. Louis. This as a disaster declaration request moves to the president's desk. The mayor's message 10 days after that tornado touchdown.
No severe weather is in the forecast this week, even though some of us may see a little rain. I'll show you when it will start to feel more like summer.
But first,
it was a fiasco this morning.
Shots fired near homes in Hazelwood. An officer fires his gun after coming in contact with a man holding a knife. Thank you for joining us at 10. I'm Brent Solomon. Tonight, new details into that police shooting in St. Louis County that sent a man to the hospital. Officers say he brandished a knife. Annie Krall is just back into the newsroom now. Annie, you spent the evening in that Hazelwood neighborhood. What happened here?
Brent, I spoke with a former Marine who's lived in Eagles Point for nearly 40 years. He didn't want to go on camera, but he told me he's seen a lot of violence in his lifetime, but nothing like what he saw today on his own block.
I was shocked. I was terrified. I've never heard anything like that in this neighborhood.
It was around 11:30 Monday morning when Hazelwood police responded to a call for a domestic disturbance on Eagles Way Court.
I see them. They're really nice. So I'm really shocked. I have no idea what broke out. It was probably like an argument or something. I don't know. You never know what happens behind closed doors.
One neighbor wanted to stay anonymous on camera, but said she initially thought the gunshots were fireworks.
I looked out my window and I saw a police officer and a man standing outside and yelling. There was a lot of yelling.
A lot of yelling after a 29-year-old Hazelwood police officer came across a man wielding a knife, according to St. Louis County Police. The officer, with 2 years of law enforcement experience, fired their gun, hitting the man.
I saw the ambulance take away this man who was crying and hollering. It was really sad. I said a prayer for him.
The subject on Eagles Way Court was taken to a nearby hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. As investigators continue to gather evidence, it created a barrier for people who live in the quiet subdivision, especially on Memorial Day.
I was FaceTiming with one of my friends and we were going to go to the park, and I was showing her, I was look, I can't go anywhere. No one was allowed in or out.
Officials say this is an ongoing investigation. St. Louis County Police ask that if you have any information about today's incident, you should call the number on your screen, which is 636-529-8210. You can also contact Crime Stoppers at 866-371-TIPS.
All right, we'll stay on this one, Annie. Thank you. Today, police had to respond to multiple fights during an event at Tower Grove Park. Our crew saw multiple St. Louis police cars flying south on Kings Highway this afternoon. Officers say the fights broke out during a permitted event at Tower Grove. At least one person is now in custody. Police say they ended up clearing everyone out of the park to keep everyone safe. A 9-year-old killed in an apparent road rage incident in North St. Louis is now being remembered for the joy he brought to others. Last night, someone shot Jordan Neal along with his 10-year-old brother and dad while they were all in the car. As police search for a shooter, we're now hearing from that family in mourning.
He had a hard life since birth, born with cerebral palsy, only 1 pound, 2 ounces at birth. He's been through surgery, any surgery you can think of. He's had it from heart surgeries on down the line. He was a fighter. When you see the life that Jordan lived, the people that he touched, the way the city is responding to us, helping us out with everything, man, they showed out for my baby.
Jordan's 10-year-old brother is recovering from surgery in the hospital. He is expected to make a full recovery. An online fundraiser to help cover Jordan's funeral and medical bills is on our website, KSDK.com, in the As Seen on TV section. A jury finds a man guilty of killing a landlord after an eviction in the Hyde Park neighborhood. Cody's girlfriend was renting from 72-year-old Michael Kelly in St. Louis. At one point, we're told she stopped paying rent, and despite an eviction, authorities say she refused to leave. As the legal process unfolded, the 30-year-old man threatened and eventually killed the landlord. He was arrested days later. The jury recommended 35 years behind bars for both second-degree murder and armed criminal action. Cody will be sentenced next month. And take a look at this. Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore saying, quote, "This was a ruthless, targeted killing over a lawful eviction. This senseless act of violence has destroyed multiple families. This conviction reflects our unwavering commitment to holding violent offenders fully accountable. The Missouri Department of Agriculture denies the St. Louis County Animal Care and Control an animal shelter license after it failed 3 inspections. On February 13th, an inspector found rusty pipes, dogs and kennels too small for them, and expired medications at the Olivet location. During a March inspection, the shelter failed due to leaky chemicals, dead bugs, and animal waste. A third inspection on May 14th found drain malfunctions, sanitation issues, swarms of gnats, and multiple boxes of expired medicine. It's been 1 week since that shelter reopened after a parvovirus outbreak that led to officials euthanizing nearly 20 dogs. The county submitted a new license application Friday. We have reached out for comment, but we haven't heard back just yet. Well, let's get to a live look over downtown. We're looking at a cloudy and relatively pleasant night and not too damp out there. It looks like we'll get warmer and brighter as the week goes on. Here's Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell with a first look at the weather impact forecast.
You know, everything is pretty quiet across the area right now. The radar did try to come to life, but that dry air, that's been with us coming in on those east and northeast breezes today. So you're looking at it, Lambert. It's been pretty good flying weather in and out of Lambert today, even with the clouds around. Radar, well, here it is, your weather impact Doppler radar. Yes, there are some rain showers on the radar. Not all of this is reaching the ground. It's mostly off to the west of St. Louis. And even back in mid-Missouri, what is coming out of the clouds that's reaching the ground is extremely light. So don't expect a whole lot of fanfare as we head through the overnight hours into early tomorrow morning with this, even though we do still have some energy that has to come at us from the panhandle of Oklahoma through tomorrow into tomorrow evening. So there's a chance we'll get a shower now through tonight, into tomorrow, maybe even into tomorrow evening. It's uneventful overall. Temperatures tonight dropping into the 50s. Will be around 60 getting out the door tomorrow morning, and most of us are on the dry side. We'll see in a few minutes. We'll talk about much warmer weather as we head toward the weekend.
All right, looking forward to that, Scott. Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe now requesting a disaster declaration from President Donald Trump. The governor wants to see federal assistance in 8 counties that were affected by that EF3 tornado that touched down 10 days ago now. 5 on your side's Laura Bercheski is live downtown with a look at what areas the governor wants to see get that money. Fill us in, Laura.
Brent, obviously the governor asked for federal assistance for the city of St. Louis, but those 8 other counties are Cape Girardeau, Iron, New Madrid, Scott, Stoddard, and Wayne, and of course St. Louis County as well. St. Louis Mayor Kara Spencer talked about all of it this afternoon, along with the upcoming National Guard response.
St. Louis Mayor Kara Spencer says Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe's request for a major disaster declaration from President Donald Trump is the first step in opening the doors to much needed federal money for tornado victims.
We understand that an unprecedented number of folks in the affected area are uninsured or underinsured. I can't speak to specifics right now. We're looking at city, state, and other ways and federal ways in which we can help to those families.
Governor Kehoe said in a statement they specifically requested FEMA individual assistance, which would allow eligible residents to seek federal assistance for temporary housing, housing repairs, replacement of damaged belongings, vehicles, and other qualifying expenses. They're also working on federal public assistance, which, if approved, would allow local governments and nonprofits to ask for reimbursements on emergency response costs. Mayor Spencer says on Wednesday, 41 members of the Missouri National Guard's 35th Brigade will be here to help with large debris removal.
And what we're looking to do is set up 3 to 4 key spots where we're going to have temporary holding areas for large amounts of debris. This is to really address, like not only the trees, but the roofs, the interiors that we know have suffered so much damage and remain on site.
Spencer says their assistance is something they have to pay for and says one thing residents and volunteers can do ahead of the deployment is separate the debris into different piles at the curb, like tree debris and building materials. On Tuesday, the city will have a group of construction professionals out helping with this.
And that will help us really transport those large amounts of debris off-site entirely into landfill space.
The St. Louis Board of Aldermen is entering a special session tomorrow to discuss 2 bills that would specifically help the affected residents financially. And the state is also entering a special session where Mayor Spencer is hoping that they will address more state aid to St. Louis as well. Reporting live downtown, Laura Bercheski, 5 on your side.
All right, Laura, thanks for that. Many in St. Louis spent the holiday still working to care for storm survivors. Food truck Pure Catering is one of the businesses working nonstop right now. Co-owner Joe Westbrook says the day after the tornado, he rallied a crew to help, bringing his kitchen to the community. He says while there's a lot of need right now, a little goes a long way.
They can just have one hot meal a day. You know, while they're going through this, it's something that can just ease just the burden a little bit. It's not going to solve it, but you know what? Just that moment. We have a long road ahead of us, and we got a lot to do.
Pure Catering partnered with Buzz's Hawaiian Grill, Homestyle Grill, and AT&T to serve 900 meals in 3 different parts of the city. If you or someone you know needs help with storm recovery, text the word STORM to 314-425-5355. We'll send you info, including ways you can give back to all of those impacted. Gone but not forgotten. Local Memorial Day ceremonies honoring the men and women who gave their lives for freedom. The unofficial start of summer means sunscreen on sunny days. We verify a few tips to keep your summer sun safe.
Not much sun for most of us today, or tomorrow for that matter, but there is a pattern change coming. When that change brings brighter and warmer days to the bi-state.
Today, the United States honored the men and women who fought and died for our country. Memorial Day ceremonies were held all across the country today. Many showed up right here in St. Louis to pay their respects. At Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery, the flag flew half-staff as vets shared their stories and remembered their fellow service members. Local scouts planted thousands of flags the day before at every single gravesite. It's a homegrown tradition that has since spread all across the country. Well, over in Florissant, veterans of many of America's wars were honored at the James Egan Center. The guest of honor was a Navy veteran of the Second World War. He was a carpenter's mate, 3rd class. This morning, he reflected on all of his service and those he served with.
I was one of the youngest ones, I guess, in there in my battalion in World War II. Helped me sacrifice their life for us to be free, and I'm very proud to say that I did my part.
He certainly did, and check this out. Today was his 100th birthday. He says serving in the military was one of the best things he's ever done, besides marrying his 2 wives. A ceremony honored Gold Star families at Soldiers Memorial today. Hundreds of people in the crowd became a procession as they laid wreaths alongside memorial walls. It's an annual tribute as many lay down yellow flowers to mark their loved ones. One man says days like this are difficult, but he chooses to remember the happy memories he had with his son.
In the military, it's like the mayor said, you know, it's civil service, it's service to others. And Brandon was like that. Well, it's unfortunate that it's always somber. But you think about, you know, guys like this, you know, they bring joy to remember, because we hate having somber days. You know, the funeral is once.
The Missouri History Museum handles the rotating exhibit inside of the memorial. Today marks the end of the Ghost Army exhibit. A new one honoring the courage and sacrifice of the Tuskegee Airmen is set to open on Juneteenth. Well, Memorial Day is the unofficial kickoff to summer, and one thing on a lot of people's minds is having fun in the sun. Many turn to sunscreen, but there's a lot of factors that go into picking the best and the most protective. Megan Brad verifies.
Since 2007, the Environmental Working Group, a research advocacy organization, puts out its sunscreen report. This year, they looked at more than 2,400 SPF products and found 498 met their criteria for safety. So we're taking a look at some of the criteria for what makes the best sunscreen. To get answers, we went to the Environmental Working Group. Dr. Alyssa Daniel, a dermatologist with Metrolina Dermatology, the American Academy of Dermatology, and the CDC. There are several different types of sunscreen on the market. When it comes to recommendations, the EWG states mineral sunscreen is the safest course of action. The American Academy of Dermatology says if the active ingredients in your sunscreen is titanium dioxide and zinc oxide or both, you have a mineral sunscreen. When it comes to chemical sunscreen, those have more ingredients and may be easier to rub in. However, there's some controversy surrounding chemical sunscreens and their effect on your body. Experts say more studies need to be done. Dr. Daniel tells us that mineral-based sunscreen works best on kids and people who have sensitive skin.
There are some skin conditions, especially if patients are dealing with problems with pigment, that I do prefer more of the mineral blockers.
What about the SPF in sunscreen? According to the AAD, the higher number doesn't always mean the better. Sunscreen with SPF of at least 30 blocks 90% of the sun's UVB rays. However, the CDC says in order for it to work, you need to apply often. If you're in the sun for more than 2 hours, reapplying is key.
It's those little factors that you don't always remember when it's time. But Scott, let's hope we'll have some sunshine soon so we can remember.
Yeah, and reapplying that sunscreen, one of those things, and you forget to do it, and you go to the pool.
Yep.
You've also got the pool, the light reflecting off the pool too, so you can get that light coming off of the water.
Well, there you go.
Kind of exacerbating that.
You're right about it.
We got to watch that. All right, here we go. We're looking out in St. Charles right now. On the radar screen, we've seen some lighter showers over western St. Charles County, back into portions of Warren County. Don't think most of that's reaching the ground based on what we've seen. Now, the shower chances, here's 3 things you need to know. They'll continue into tomorrow. But like we saw today, there's definitely more dry time than wet time. We are not looking at severe thunderstorms over the next few days. In fact, it doesn't look like the ingredients are there for at least the next week for severe weather in our area. That's a bonus. And a warmer weekend, and yes, that's sunscreen. You'll need it because the sun is really getting strong. How strong? We're within a month now of the summer solstice. So the next 2 months are when we get our strongest sun in St. Louis. Here's the radar around the metro area. A little bit of ground clutter here and there, but that's about it. We look out to the west. Here are those smattering of showers, if you will, that maybe it's more like spritzes and sprinkles drifting northeast. There's not much rain out there. It looks more impressive than it is, but the air is very dry. And with that northeast and east-northeast breeze continuing, really no reason why we're going to see most of that reach the ground. A little energy swings in late tonight, early tomorrow, but you see the big thunderstorms have all been down to our south. With this energy sliding in during the overnight hours into tomorrow, sure, we may kick off a stray shower here or there. It's just not going to amount to much. We'll drop back into the 50s to around 60. That's your overnight lows. By lunchtime tomorrow, mid-60s. Odds are it's a little grayer tomorrow than it was today in the metro area. Today we had more high and mid-level clouds. Tomorrow they may be a little bit thicker on the lower level end of the clouds, which means you get less sunshine. But the rain chances overall very limited for tomorrow and even into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. As we track the impacts, we could have some tomorrow with a few showers around, but very limited. Then into the weekend, you'll need the sunscreen. The only other rain chance we're seeing is Thursday and Saturday, and they are below 20%. In fact, 10 to 15% in most cases. 67 right now. 71 was the high today. Tomorrow, we start in the 50s around 60. We'll get back around 70 during the afternoon hours. And for the next 7 days, expect to see the warming trend really kicking in over the weekend and into early next week. That's when temperatures are going to soar, especially as we get into next week. It looks like early next week, it's mid to upper 80s for St. Louis. And the one thing that'll be different with that summertime feel, Brent, is we really won't have the humidity going into early next week. It's not going to be all that bad humidity-wise. We're starting to heat it up, though.
Well, it's going to happen, so we'll enjoy the moments along the way.
Yes,
Thank you for that, Scott. We've got Frank standing by with sports.
Brent, we have the NBA, the NHL playoffs, the Cardinals, a champion golfer in the area, and we're playing hit and run with Steve Savard. So the Cardinals had this gaudy streak going. They are 7-1-1 in their last 9 series. To keep it alive, they are now going to have to win the next 2 games in Baltimore. The Orioles have been the most disappointing team in baseball, but they got it together today. Must be cool to play a game in Baltimore, and you see the legend Cal Ripken Jr. sitting in the front row. Nolan Arenado also watched today. He should be in the lineup tomorrow, resting from that soreness from the day before. Eric Fetty was hit early and often, and this is the big hit. Dylan Carlson, the former Cardinal, with a 3-run bomb. The Cardinals avoided the shutout on this 2-run homer by Pedro Paez. Not enough. Baltimore wins 5-2. Game 4, Western Conference Final in Minnesota, and Chet Holmgren won 4 state titles in this building, and he was relentless tonight, scoring 21 points on 9 of 14 shooting. The MVP, Shane Gilgeous-Alexander, iced it with free throws late. He had 40 points. The Thunder now up 3-1 after a 128-126 victory. Let's head to Florida for Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Final. Logan Stankoven will light the lamp, and that's the first lead of the series for Carolina. The Hurricanes pull a Bee Gees and staying alive. Did you get that, Brent? They win 3-0 and trail 3-1 in the series. Let's head to Norwood Hills Country Club. And last week in the state championships in Springfield, Missouri, Harrison Zipfel had a record-breaking performance with a 64 and a 68 to win the individual title. And his SLU Junior Bills won the state championship as a squad. He had a stretch of 5 straight birdies.
Hole looked very big, especially that first day. I was making a lot of putts, and I really got confident over the ball. And when you have a lot of confidence, you know, things are just going to go right.
On Mondays, we often play Hit and Run with a celebrity. Steve Savard was a popular news anchor for decades. The voice of the Rams was also invited to participate in a Dallas Cowboys training camp. He's now back in town, and it's time for some no hedging questions. We know the worst episode for you in Dallas was getting injured, but what was the best moment putting on a Cowboy helmet?
Probably just the first experience walking out my rookie year, first preseason game, London, first American Bowl ever played against the Super Bowl champion Bears. Getting dressed in Wembley and listening to 60 to 80,000 people stomping their feet before pregame warm-ups.
In Springfield, the thing you missed most about St. Louis?
Oh, the food. The food.
You're a happily married man. The single most aggressive move a female fan tried to pull to meet you?
Not so much to meet me, but I was walking to the airport one time and one of the workers there recognized me, and it was right after the Hey Steve promos. Hey Steve! She yells, Hey Steve, and she wanted me to sign the top of her chest with a Sharpie.
No such thing as TV or radio in this world. You would have done what?
I would have probably gone into law enforcement. Probably secondarily, talent evaluation, a scout, a football scout, maybe a director of personnel if I ever ascended that far.
You've been gone for 4 years, but how often do you run into people in St. Louis who don't realize that and say, hey, I love you on TV every night?
Quite a bit. I'm recognized more often in St. Louis than I was in the last 4 years in Springfield, for sure.
What would you want somebody to say at the end of your TV career about your career?
2 things. I was professional and I was prepared.
He's really one of the good guys. We wish him well back in St. Louis. The pride of Parkway North, by the way.
Always neat to hear those inside stories.
Yeah.
By the way, I recognize the Bee Gees. Come on.
Okay, good. I didn't know if you were old enough.
I started to sing. Still ahead, speaking of singing, gospel music and a little goodwill. How women from across the world are coming together to spread love in St. Louis. Gospel music filling the halls at America Center this evening. Here's a look at the 75th Annual Women's International Convention of the Church of God in Christ. The festivities kicked off with a musical this evening with Grammy Award-winning group the Clark Sisters headlining. Organizers say coaching members are here to leave a positive impact.
We had an event called Praise in the Park, where we provided food and provided clothing and spiritual needs to the community as well. We also had a prayer walk on today, where they went out in the city of St. Louis and began to pray for individuals that was on the street.
We'd like to welcome the group back to St. Louis. This week, they will give away scholarships to students in need. All right, take a look at this one. Baby Jet is growing up fast. Ahead of the Memorial Day weekend, the St. Louis Zoo celebrated the newest member of the zoo's Asian elephant troop. And it's an important milestone, his 6-month birthday. Zookeepers celebrated with animal-safe decorations, of course, in Baby Jet's own habitat. How about that?
Cool. Yeah.
Very quickly,
Baby Jet didn't move during the tornado. Baby Jet just sat
Exactly.
down, and it was all good for him.
He stayed put.
All right, we don't have any severe weather over the next 7 days. It's a pretty good forecast, maybe a few showers tomorrow.
We'll keep it in mind. That's all of our time, my friend.